Hello and welcome. This is an unscheduled Declutter and Organize 2025 video. And this is because the other day, Cori and I were messaging, but we started chatting about crafty spaces. And I think it was after you watched what is the 1 hour better? And you're like, oh,
Yes.
I see you have potential, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of started us chatting back and forth and sending pictures, and it became this whole thing. And I said, we need to do a video about that. And so here we are. I have jotted a couple ideas down, but it's by no means scripted or really thought out. It's just we wanted to come and talk. Because I feel like if other people are feeling like I am, then they might need to hear us kind of chat about this. From the video is find a crafty friend. So, from the bottom of my heart, I am thankful that Cori was open and willing to kind of chat and talk about this. And so, find a crafty friend, a Facebook group, or someone who is in your crafting world, whatever it might be, and talk to them. So, Cori, I would say thank you for that. And we'll kind of, I guess, recap the other day.
I had the idea that your room is a fabulous space. And as I was looking at it and thinking about how it worked for you, my thought was maybe the furniture arrangement isn't necessarily the best for what you need. And so I reached out to you. As a teacher, I tell my students all the time they learn best from each other. And they're going to have the
Mhm.
deepest, most meaningful understanding of what they're learning when they talk about it. And that's true for us
Mhm.
too. So
Mhm.
I could see your frustration. And I don't want anybody to think when they're going through this that I'm the only one who's feeling frustrated or incompetent or inept, or those are all absolutely normal things. And I think everybody that is trying to figure out their space goes through something like that. So I thought,
Mhm.
well, I'll be brave. Kara's kind and she won't hate me if I say, just look at it a different way, consider a different
Mhm.
option. And that kind of
Mhm.
sparked a whole new direction for
Huge,
you, I think.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it was,
and I think if you're in your space all the time, I mean, there was things that we talked about that it didn't even occur to me, and they're so simple. But I think if you're in your space, you're almost not blind to it, but you don't see the things that aren't working. So that's another
right.
reason why having a crafty person, or not even a crafty, but someone who gets what you do, right? I
Right.
joke that I took a picture, I sent it to Cori, and your reaction was very different than when I sent the same picture to my mother, right? My mother doesn't junk journal, she's not a crafter. She's like, oh, that looks
Right.
good. Where you are like, it looks magical. I'm like, that's a completely different reaction because
Right.
you get it. My mom gets it because she's my mom, but she doesn't get it because she doesn't do the paper stuff, right?
Right.
So I think
And I
finding
think
someone
that's
who gets it is
crucial.
huge. Yeah,
It is,
and
and it
having
doesn't
the
even
other
have to be somebody who creates the same way you do. It doesn't have to be somebody that necessarily has the same exact taste and style. Like, my room is very vintage and your room is a lot less so. I mean, we both love Tim Holtz product, but who
right,
doesn't? And
right.
I think it's more of an understanding of what we need when we create, what kind of a space we need, what kind of environment,
Mhm.
what kind of a flow. And I think that is more essential than somebody who just supports you. Though it's always nice to have the support. Like, your husband was a trooper and came in and helped a lot, and I love that.
Yeah,
But he doesn't
yeah,
see your space the same way I do, or your
no.
mom doesn't see your space the same way.
Mm-mm.
And I think
Yeah,
that matters.
yeah, I think exactly. So again, I hope that people reach out. Lots of Facebook groups in your crafting world. I have a
Right.
Facebook group. Tracy Fox has a great, tons of people in her Facebook group. Just reach out, find a group, message people. Don't be afraid. Just they're probably going through it too, especially if they're doing this challenge. They're
Well,
probably thinking,
there's
"What the heck
probably
am
a
I doing?"
there's probably a Facebook group. I haven't looked, but organizing your craft room or
Mhm,
organizing your
mhm.
space or something. There's probably an entire group for that.
Yeah,
That'll just
yeah,
be full of a plethora of ideas, regardless if you like clutter or minimal or anything in between.
Yeah, and it's been neat because in my Facebook group, we have been posting pictures and saying, "What do you think of this?" Or so it has begun, and I really
Mhm.
encourage that. And if there's someone that you connect with in those messages, I just really want you to like message them and reach out to them. And you never know, having
Yeah,
online crafty friends is great. So
yeah,
yeah, okay. So we talked about the layout of my room, which
right.
then prompted me to rearrange the room. This was after I had done my 1 hour better, my decluttering, which was good that I did that
Very good,
because
I
if I
agree.
hadn't cleared off my floor, I would probably still be buried in the stuff I was
Well, it would have made your
rearranging.
next step, I think, a little bit more challenging. I think the 1 hour better is a phenomenal start for just about anybody because it
Mhm.
motivates you to get going. And then
Yeah,
I think many people might benefit from stopping and looking at their space and saying, I really like this. This is a good function, but I need to tackle this.
yeah.
And sometimes that involves moving things around, not
Mhm,
just putting things away, which is always
mhm.
phenomenal, but rethinking where those things live.
Right.
And that sometimes can involve a little bit more detailed need to move things, you know?
Yeah,
You can't just put it away, you've gotta move something else in order to put it away.
yeah, yeah,
And
and
that's
that kinda that
individual.
yeah, and that leads into when we were chatting, one of my biggest this sounds silly, but it was a big aha. I was like, "What?" But to give yourself permission, it's okay to change. It's
Yes.
okay. If that the way I had my room laid out, I have had it that way since my last 2-year I can't speak, organization challenge. And so it's okay. If it
Yeah.
wasn't working or it isn't working, you can change.
Well, and that's something else true too. Something may work really, really well for a time, and
Mhm,
then your materials change or something alters in the way you create, and then
mhm.
something that used to work really well may not work really well anymore.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
recognizing that and moving on and giving yourself permission to say, "Okay, this is a great system, but it's not working here. What can I do to
Mhm,
change it?"
mhm,
And a lot of times people think it's gotta cost a lot of money. I've gotta go buy something new and the greatest,
mhm,
and I have to
mhm.
get rid of all this in order to bring in that. And most of the time, that's not the case.
Yeah.
You don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. You can
Right.
just fix that one area. And
Right.
it doesn't and I mean, none of the stuff in this room was new. I don't think you have to spend a lot of money in order to make it
Mhm.
really functional for you. I mean,
Right.
maybe you need to spend some depending on what you have, but
Yeah.
odds are you don't. And almost everybody can benefit from like Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp or, the
Mhm.
buy nothing trade groups and such, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of options,
And simple as you saying, "Get command hooks and hang up your paper trimmer."
right? Because that's a
What?
big bulky item that takes up space, yeah. Or
What?
scissors, So a lot of
Right.
people I put my scissors here because I wanna make sure the tips stay sharp. And now
Mhm,
those are with the I just because it's wood, I screwed them in with, the coffee cup hooks. That was
mhm,
what, a couple bucks?
mhm. Because
So,
my paper trimmer was taking up a whole drawer.
yeah,
Drawers are precious commodity, like, that's
yes, they are.
precious space.
Yep,
So, hello, put it on the put it on the side of my drawer,
right,
and I can still reach for it, it's still there.
right,
So, yeah. So, again, having that crafty friend to say, "Hey, this is how I do it," or "To try this." 'Cause
right.
I didn't think command hooks, and that's so simple. It's so simple. It's so
Well, and with
simple.
with your furniture, you don't wanna drill holes like I did.
Mm-mm.
So command hooks aren't and a lot of people say, "Well, I'm renting this place," or "It's an apartment," or "I don't have the ability to, drill things into the walls." Command hooks are super I mean, I use them in my classroom all the time because we're not
Yeah,
to drill into the walls.
yeah,
So, they have different weights and different things that they'll
yeah,
hold, and they're not super spendy.
yeah.
So
Okay,
yeah,
so I'm looking at my little list. Oh, okay.
okay.
Another aha it was, and I'm kind of embarrassed because I feel like these are no brainers, but no brainer is to use your wall space. Behind my printer is a great example.
Right.
I can put the simple, like you suggested, simple picture shelves so you can get at IKEA or other places, pretty
Hobby
inexpensive.
Lobby, Craftware, Michaels, they all have
Yeah,
them now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazon. Gotta love
Yeah.
Amazon.
Yeah. And then I can use that space either for more mixed media, so it's all together with my pegboard, or I have a real, well, it's not a problem, but displaying or putting projects. I have some in my bedroom in a really cool shelf, junk journals that I've made. But I think even like displaying things that I've made or have been sent to me, it would be a cool place to put that too.
I
But I
I
do think
agree.
I'll probably use that for mixed media or something.
Yeah. The nice thing about that too is I don't care who you are as an artist or a creator or whatever however you consider what you do.
Mhm.
Everybody goes through times when they're feeling super creative and times when they're feeling a lot less creative. They're a slump if you want.
Mhm.
That's just human nature. And having some of those pieces around can really motivate you and inspire you and bring you out of
Mhm.
those slump. I mean,
Mhm.
plus you do it because you like it and they just make you happy to see.
Mhm.
So having it there as inspiration is fabulous, but also just having it there for the sake of enjoyment
Mhm.
and pleasure is valuable as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, so wall
Yes.
space, command hooks, and then the going up, like, again, if you're able to,
Right.
putting, like, you have shelves to your ceiling
Right. It's
that
literally a
you've
half inch from
made,
the ceiling. Yeah.
and so you really are utilizing all your space in your craft room.
My craft
Um,
room isn't really big compared to many. It's a standard size bedroom in a house built in the 80s. So it's 9.5 by 10. And because my shelving units are so deep, because I wanted them to fit the depth of the sewing machine drawers, it shrinks the room even more. So in order to fully utilize the space, I had to go high.
mhm.
So, that's just something to consider as you're thinking about what you need and what works for you. Now, if you've got mobility issues or you're an elderly person, don't do anything that's going to hurt yourself. Don't require a ladder or something. My sister is a nurse practitioner at a major hospital in Seattle, and she is always telling me, if you're over 50, do not get on a tall ladder. It's a bad idea. So,
Mhm.
be mindful about your own safety and health, but at the
Mhm.
same time, most of this I can reach. I don't have
Yeah,
to stand on something, or I can
yeah,
use a little step stool and get it.
yeah,
So just being mindful that it's okay to reach up, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. And I think that's another thing that I really admire about your space is that telling myself I need to give myself permission, but you have given yourself permission. Like, you have tweaked and changed and added. It's not, this just was one weekend and here's
Oh, no.
your craft room. And it's evident that you're like, wait, this didn't work. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try, change this. And even in your videos from last year and the previous year, the changes that you made because you had to redo your flooring. Like,
Right.
I feel like you do think about it and, okay, this is working. I'm going to tweak this. And I think that is just really cool. Give yourself the permission to kind of rethink and revamp. And I think that's really cool. And
Yeah.
I'm going to borrow that.
Oh, absolutely. When we first moved into this house, it's just a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch, and the people that lived here before us had turned a section of the garage into an office space. And so that was my first craft room. And I spent a lot of time and energy and effort to get it just right. And then I realized I didn't love being in there because there was no natural light.
Mm,
And if I was gonna spend any quality time in there, that I needed something with light. And so I gave myself permission to make that the guest room because we don't have guests that often.
mhm,
Usually we go see our adult kids.
mhm,
And to just even though it's just the backyard and it's nothing spectacular, that actual sunlight when it's not raining is huge and it's made a big difference. And so even something as simple as where you create, it doesn't
mm,
have to be a designated room. It doesn't have to be um, a special put aside spot. Just
yeah,
find a place that works for you and make that
mhm,
place work.
mhm.
I think that's an important takeaway too.
I think that I even just because I'm sitting at because I this is new. The place that I'm sitting now was not here.
Yeah.
It was on this other wall. And the fact that it is now towards the middle of the room, but my window is right here and I'm not facing before I faced the window, but when I sat here, I'm not making sense. I had the monitor blocked to the window. But now I can look out the window and I feel it just feels better. And that's just a 90-degree turn that I
Yeah.
did with the
And it can
table.
make a big difference. It
And it's
really
huge. It's
yeah.
huge.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think one thing many of us do because it's so easy, we put the desk on the wall and we sit behind the desk and we're facing the wall.
Yeah.
And that works really well for some things. But if you think about most office spaces, like if you're going to a business or something,
Mhm.
they face out because
Mhm.
it expands your visual view and it just gives you more ideas. You feel
Mhm.
less closed off, you feel less boxed in,
Yeah.
and maybe that's what you need. And if it is, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
But don't limit yourself. Consider turning things.
Right.
Consider, like you did, turning it at a 90-degree angle
Mhm.
and getting a completely different visual.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's how
And I
it's
do like that I can face the door too, where
mhm.
before my back was to the door, I like because kids might come in and out.
Or
I
husbands
like
or
being able to
dogs or
see.
yeah,
So that it's
absolutely.
just those things. And again, talking to someone sparked those ideas.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so
and
I
I
said,
wouldn't have come up with what you ended up with as an arrangement, but it's perfect. It really works well and it allows you to utilize all your different spaces and with the chair that you've got with the function that you need. I mean,
yeah,
it's a great setup for you.
yeah,
And it came about because you tried this and then you tried this and then that's magic.
yeah, yeah. I mean, because you literally drew a picture of your idea,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Like
that
the
was
sketch
awesome.
figures.
Like
Yeah.
you literally were like, okay, and then my brain, I was like, wait a minute, what? And that's why we had to actually do a FaceTime because I was not
Yeah.
understanding. Well, and the measurements, it didn't quite. It was I tried your idea, but it just didn't quite. But this works.
Right.
But and
And it
so
does. And
I
what you
got here,
yeah. And
and
that's I
that
think a lot of times the process, you get where you need to be, maybe going around a back door or
mhm,
in a different way.
yeah,
And it got you where you needed to be. And I really think this new space is going to work well for you.
me too.
So that's a
Me
win.
too. Yes, because I we were talking about this too. This last year, I didn't even want to come up here really,
Right.
and that's hard if you're trying to have your business
Right.
succeed. And well, last year was the worst year. And maybe it is because I didn't want to spend much time.
Right. Absolutely.
So I think having a space that when you walk in, and it doesn't have to be a full room. It could just be
No.
a corner of a room, but it needs to bring joy and make you happy, right?
Right. And I think having a designated setup when at all possible is beneficial because when you
Mhm.
have 10 or 15 minutes here and there, you can go in and do something and feel productive. You know,
Instead of using that 10 or 15 minutes to feel like you have to clean up before you do anything.
exactly.
And that's how I always felt. It was like, well, it's a hot mess in there. I don't want to go.
Right, exactly.
And
You
I
find
did it.
something else to do, yeah.
And
And
so
that's kind of
Netflix
too
was my
bad.
friend.
Yeah. Well, and it's too bad too because we do this hobby because we enjoy it. It brings us
Yeah.
pleasure and so when you deny yourself that, you're pulling away from your creative side, I think.
Mhm.
And so this allows you to really embrace that. And I
Yeah.
think that's a positive thing.
It's huge. It's
Yeah.
huge. It's a good start to 2025, that's for sure.
Yes, for sure. So,
Space.
success tips for a workspace. It depends on what you, I think, want from a workspace. You need the tools that you use all the time at
Mm.
hand, but you also need to have a place for them.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you get the pile-in effect. And when you're thinking about what works for you, only make changes when something isn't working. If something's working well, leave it alone and then add to it
Mhm.
rather than just automatically throwing it out and starting from scratch.
Mhm.
Keep
And
what
I
works,
think
change what
sometimes
doesn't.
sometimes you don't realize it's not working for you.
That's
Like,
true.
I don't think it, like, comes out and says, "This isn't working." I don't think
Right.
it's for me at least, it was little whispers. It was,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm really frustrated. I can't find my scissors," or, "Oh my gosh, I keep losing my stapler or my glue." I don't think it comes out and says I think it's just the little, "Yeah, this is annoying. That was frustrating,"
Right.
instead of, "Oh, look at all this cool thing, this cool stuff I made or created in my 20 minutes I was here." Instead, it was, frustration.
Right.
And so I think listening to that is also
Yes,
key.
it is.
Maybe my word of 2025 should be listen. I don't know. I'm still working on
That's a
my
word.
word.
That's a
I
great
was
word.
thinking progress was going to be my word, but yeah, like you really, and it's that, and it's there
The
for all
internal
sorts of things.
voice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there. And if you're not wanting to go to your craft room, yeah, maybe it's the hot mess, but maybe it's your workspace, just that part that
Right.
needs to be revamped and give yourself again permission to move things around and try
Another
different
thing
things.
that I think too is if nothing's working well, then absolutely start from scratch if need be. But I think sometimes too, it has to be a work in progress. So
Yeah.
you make a change and you see how well that does. And if that's h- facilitating your need to create, then you think, okay, let's make one more change. So rather than, it's kind of like when you test for food allergies, you don't test for everything at once. You try something for a little bit
Mhm,
and you see how
mhm,
you react, and then you try
mhm.
something else and you see how you react, and
Yep.
maybe you add one thing or you take one thing away. And I think our workspaces are like that too.
Right.
Um, you adjust as you go rather than starting from the beginning. Yeah. Other than I firmly believe you start with your workspace and you build out from there rather than
Mhm,
building out all around and then
mhm,
whatever's left is your workspace,
mhm,
because that
mhm.
is the most um, primary important area,
Yeah.
because you can't create if you don't have that workspace, whatever
Yeah.
that might be. And
Yeah.
so start small and build big rather than building big and then coming out and
Yeah.
this is what's left.
Yeah.
And I
And
see that happen a lot.
yeah, and I think I know this last week, since we've kind of been chatting and I've been working on the room, I have spent a lot of time just thinking, right? Just that's probably why I
Huge.
can't fall asleep at night, but I'm just thinking, okay, now where would I rather have that? Or what if I try this? Or just different ideas. And I've been actually like jotting them down in my notes on my phone.
Yeah,
Um, because I know then tomorrow I might not remember them. But
exactly.
even giving yourself a chance to think about, okay, I want my sewing machine near me. What's
Right.
the best way to do it? Or the other thing we talked about is the paper
Paper trimmer?
yep, Sizzix. What vagabond, what are they?
Oh, die cut machine.
Sounds like two words. Die
Yep.
cutting machine.
We got charades down pat. We've got this. Or whatever that game is. Yeah.
And that was one that wasn't working for me because I hate lifting that stinker. It's heavy. It's
It is
heavy.
heavy.
And you dropped yours on your foot, which
Right,
prompted you to change.
right.
So there's like aha moments, and there's two by fours, as my mother would say. You had a two by four, and I had this isn't working.
Right. And
So
almost always there's a way to make it work.
yeah.
Almost always. Maybe not always, and maybe sometimes you have to wait a little bit because of budgets and constrictions and stuff,
Mhm,
but most of the time there is a reasonable way to make it work. You
mhm,
just have to look at the problem a little differently. Or like you
mhm.
said, grab a crafty friend and talk it over with them. Maybe they've got a completely different idea, right?
Yeah, because you sent me your picture of, oh, well, I put mine on my cart, and I've seen that before. I've seen other
Right.
people, right? But it wasn't until I was like, it's on wheels.
I can just move it. When I'm
Maybe.
die cutting, I die it, I'll do it a lot, and I put it up on a plywood platform so that I
Mhm,
don't have to take it in and out. I can just roll it right where it is. It lifted it up
mhm,
enough. It's stable, it's sturdy, it's not gonna fall on me.
mhm,
It works
mhm.
great for what I need. Will that work for
Right.
everybody? No, but it
Yeah.
it works great for what I need.
Yeah.
So,
And I was worried at first, like, oh, but I love that top tier of the roller cart, right?
right,
But I think giving up that top tier for this option is going to benefit me more.
right,
'Cause I'm not gonna get frustrated while I'm in the making space of, "Oh, I have to lug it on my desk. I have to plug it," you know what I mean? It's all
yeah,
right there. It'll be ready to go.
right.
So, giving up that top tier
Right. I
will
think
be okay.
one of the things that people tell me is their biggest challenge is ephemera storage. So a
Mm,
lot of people make the accordion ephemera holders, and
mhm,
I hated it because I couldn't see what I wanted. It
mhm,
didn't work well for me, and I know it works great for a lot of people. So my tray system was what I was worked really well for me, because I can easily in these flat surfaces dig through and find exactly what I want without having to move everything
Did you
around.
make those?
No, actually I bought them at Craft Warehouse, and it's a company. I don't remember what it says, like, 'cause I can't see it, but it's
Don't spill all your ephemera.
yeah,
It's
no
all gonna
kidding.
go on the floor.
DADAO Wooden Industry Company.
Huh.
And it's from Wilsonville, Oregon, WWWSPC, and they go on sale for like $8. So, it's not a great system for everybody by any means, but it works exceptionally well for me. I never dig for ephemera, ever. But I know a lot of people do, and they like that process.
Mm,
Or the plastic sleeves.
mhm,
Absolutely hate those for me, but I think they're
mhm,
phenomenal for other people. So I
mhm.
think that's part of it too, is just really figuring out what you need. I
Did you
don't
make
have as
the
much
shelf?
time as
Did you make the shelf that your ephemera things go on?
yeah, but do you know how easy
That's
that was?
impressive.
Literally, Home Depot cut the I think that's half-inch plywood, cut it
Mhm.
for me because my saw, I had ordered a new blade and it hadn't arrived. And all I did is I marked it with my ruler. I took my drill and I put,
The little pluggy things.
yeah, the little shelf
Mhm,
pins in, and then
mhm.
I just made shelves based on the depth that I needed. It didn't take long. And then I made it so that it's an insert in this big huge bookcase. And so it
Wow.
just slides in and out. It's heavy. The whole frame is heavy, but it's not going anywhere. And it did exactly what I need. I have flat trays, thinner ones that look more like
Mm.
where I can put my die cuts.
No, that's cool.
And it works exceptionally well for me. Is that the answer for everybody? Absolutely not. Some people love those accordion bins. Gail has all kinds of little bins and bags and
Mhm,
pouches and stuff,
mhm,
and that works great for her.
mhm,
You know, my Tracy labels. I love having it this way because it encourages me to look through things in a different way. I
mhm,
think that's just one of those things where people have to find the flow that they like.
mhm. And ephemera is one of those things, and I'm still
It's a
wondering, like,
challenge,
how am I gonna store it?
right?
Because if, like, I'm like you, if you can't see it, you forget about it, and
Right.
that's another thing. I feel like if you accumulate all the stuff, right? Because I had to have all of the things,
All of the things, yes.
especially the Tim Holtz things.
I still have a lot of Tim Holtz, but I love it.
Then, yeah, but then I toss it in a bucket and then I forget about it.
Mhm.
I'm like you, I need to be able to see it. So I'm still working on what will be the best
Right. Well,
way.
I think for many, many people, the floss organizers work really well because they have different sizes and different styles, and they're like $2 or $3 at Walmart. They're
Mhm.
plastic, but here, you know what I mean. Here, I have one right here.
Do I know? Yeah, like the little,
I still use these, right? Little floss
yeah.
organizers for
Mhm.
all the things. I probably have 20 of those
Mhm.
things for beads and buttons and
Yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
the, and they work great. And so maybe there's no reason on earth, they come in these sections.
Mhm.
There's no reason on earth you can't take some pliers and some scissors, or
Mhm.
I would use a Sawzall because that's me, or an oscillating saw, and cut out the sections to make it bigger. You don't have to leave it exactly like this, you know? So, I mean, right,
Another
exactly.
mind-blowing moment there.
Yeah,
What
you
do you
make
mean
it
I
big
don't
as
have to
best you
leave it like
can.
that?
Well, even these, I like. There was a shelf, or a piece right here. I
Mm.
just cut it out with my oscillating saw because I needed a bigger spot. Same thing down here. This was all one size fits all. And I needed some bigger ones, so I just cut this
You took
section,
out, yeah.
just cut
Yeah.
it right out. Yeah, that's what I needed.
Hmm.
So
You
I
are
think
really
maybe
good at just, okay, this is what I need, I'm gonna do it. You're really good. Where
it's not
I
that
would be like, "Oh, it doesn't fit. What's my next plan?
right.
What am I it doesn't fit here, so what else can I use?"
And I think that's where one of how can I alter this to make it work for me? Because
Right.
for so many years, I didn't have the funds to just go out and buy whatever I wanted
Right.
whenever I wanted it.
Right.
So, how can I make this work? What do I
Yeah.
have that I can do it?
Yeah.
And there's tools for everything.
Yeah. And
So,
usually I'm not necessarily going and buying something, but sometimes.
Yeah,
But
every
it's
once in a while we need to.
swapping out, okay, well, this tray versus this or this.
All
Alright.
right.
Well, I'm so
Yeah,
glad we did this.
I am too. I really hope it benefits some people. I do.
Find your crafty person or people.
Yes.
Join the Facebook group, Cara, Brandon, and Friends. You can join the challenge. You can hang out, post your pictures before and after, or hey, I don't know what to do with my
Seek advice. Yeah.
post it in the group. And yeah, I'm
Right.
excited. And we're going to be working on our workspaces this week. So get your trash bag and your donation and figure out the system that works for you.
I love it.
And
Absolutely.
you're a rock star, Miss Cori Dahmen.
As are you. It's nice that you're facilitating this for people and just letting them know that they're not alone in this challenge, that there's a lot of people out there in the same boat.
All right. Well,
You
thank
take
you so
care.
much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.